Hello and welcome to the very first live one-on-one here in the studios at Sonny Govan. Thanks as always to the guys at Sonny Govan for having us. I'm joined by what you could call, he's getting a bit of a YouTube sensation, I'd say now. It's Sam North, Footy Adventures. How you doing, Sam? You
Good, mate. Yeah, sensation. What a word. Thank you very much. I can't say fairer than that. Thank you. Cheers.
Before we start, I've got a bone to pick with you, right?
Right, go on.
Dragon soup in a glass. Explain that.
Here we go. We've been chatting for half an hour and he's not brought this up, but here we go. Dragon soup in a glass. I don't get many days off. As we were talking about earlier as well, daily vlogging football stuff can get very intense. And the other night I came back home, I'd done a load of editing, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try dragon soup. I'd never had one before, and so I stuck it in a nice big gin glass, as you may have seen on Twitter and Instagram and that, and it was getting mixed reviews, I'll be honest.
Right.
But you know what? Bringing a bit of sophistication to the Dragon Soup party, I quite enjoyed it, yeah.
Hey, you can afford to do that when you're nearly at 100,000 subscribers, eh?
Well, mate, hopefully we'll get some more Dragon Soups in soon, yeah.
So, what did you think of the Dragon Soup in general? Did you enjoy it?
I think I may have picked the wrong flavour. It was decent. I think it was like lemonade and like some berry or something like that. I can't quite remember what it was. Maybe pink lemonade or something like that.
You need to get the flavour right. So maybe try another one.
But it was good. I did like the buzz that you get off a good dragon soup. You can't beat it really.
It is like rocket fuel.
I can imagine your heart would just beat. People were tweeting saying you'll get some palpitations if you have like more than 4, but I couldn't have 4 of them.
Oh no, send you loopy.
Yeah.
Anyway, into the important stuff. Obviously your channel's going really well, but obviously everything has a beginning. Where did you first come up with the idea for the channel?
I've spoke about this a couple of times, and people may have heard it before, but for those who haven't, I just wasn't that happy in my 9-to-5 job. I had an office job and just wanted to do something a little bit different with my life. And one day, I do not know how the idea came into my mind. I was always trying like side jobs, like in and around my other jobs, and nothing ever really took off in that. And then just one day, the thought of a YouTuber came into my head, and here I am 2 and a bit years later chatting to you in Sunny G Studios, so it's going well.
Nice. One of my favourite things that you did was when you went to the 42 clubs in Scotland. Mm-hmm. How long did that take you roughly to do all that?
When did I go to my first? I probably went to my first around May 2020. I moved back to Scotland from Australia in March 2020, obviously like a week before lockdown, so I didn't get to go anywhere until a couple of months passed, till we flattened the curve, which was supposed to take 3 weeks. But 3 months later, I was actually able just to go and see Celtic and Rangers from the outside. Yeah. And then I think it took till about December to like finally complete it all. But I didn't actually have the idea till maybe October time, when I'd seen maybe half of them, and I thought, I've seen half, why don't I just try and do the rest? And then that gave me like the videos like per team, but also I had the idea of like I could do a big like sort of combined video towards the end of everything, where I could just like say I'd been to every single one, which is maybe the video you've seen.
Yeah,
did quite well, but
I watched some of them separately, and then I watched that one right through.
Well, now I'm trying to go to games at all of them, because as you'd have seen, some of them like Stirling, Aberdeen, and that were just from the outside. So now I think I've seen games at 23 or 24 of the 42.
There you go.
So hopefully, I'm not sure if I'll complete it by the end of this season, but I'll complete it eventually. And
some clubs are really good with you doing like Coven and stuff like Steny. Like there's some clubs that I associate you with, probably Steny, Celtic
Hearts, yeah, absolutely love them. Auchinleck, yeah, some legendary clubs out there who like. There's some that just get it. Like, you know, you can have like as many accredited media people there as you want, like from newspapers and radio stations and stuff. But there's some that like really understand the new media and YouTube and social media and all stuff like that, and they're really open to things, and it's really great when they are, because obviously it helps me as a creator and it helps them as a club get exposure too. So love clubs like your Stennies and your Kelties.
So obviously at the start you did your fair share of stadium tours. What's the best and what's the worst stadium tour that you've been to?
Right, well the worst is one that I haven't uploaded,
right, okay,
because they said I wasn't allowed to film.
Do you want to keep the club nameless?
No, I'll say it. It's Aston Villa.
Aston Villa.
They wouldn't. I got there.
Shame on you, Aston Villa. I'm seeing that looking right down the line.
Oh yeah, Aston Villa. Please, if you're listening, why not invite me back? I've emailed you a few times, and you've told me I'm waiting on a response or whatever. But yeah, they've not got back to me about that. So that was a bit of a shame. I got there. The tour guide was like, "No way!" He'd seen my videos before and was really excited to show me around. And 10 minutes into it, like we're all like stood around in like just the waiting area before it starts, and he comes up to me and says, "There's no filming. I know you're here to make a video, etc." But I couldn't go around, couldn't film anything. So they were like making calls to commercial directors, etc., and just like weird stuff like that. But in the end, they just were like, "If you're filming the tour, we can't let you in," sort of thing. Which is free exposure for the club, people see my tour videos and want to go and do them themselves. It's not like people will see the tour on YouTube and not want to go. It's complete opposite.
It's just I want to go myself. Yep.
Clubs who think if you see it on YouTube, you're not going to want to go in real life. They're completely wrong. It's the opposite. If you see it on YouTube and you're inspired by it, you are going to want to go there. The videos are only 15 minutes long. Like maybe 20 max, but the tours are like over an hour, so there's loads of stuff I don't show you and loads of stuff you don't see, but that's not enough of Villa and not letting me in. The best have been, obviously Barcelona's cool. I did like the Real Madrid tour, but I'd say probably UK Spurs. I like a self-guided tour. The new stadium, yeah, it was really impressive. Self-guided tours are good, but some of the best tour guides I've had, there was Man City had great tour guides, who I always remember. Celtic have had great tour guides as well, as have Rangers, but I think the ones that really stood out for me are Man City and Celtic from the tour guides perspective.
See, that's interesting that you say that you like doing the tour yourself, like self-guided tours. I much prefer having somebody there who can tell me everything, because we did the self-guided tour at Arsenal. Really good tour, don't get me wrong, brilliant, but I much prefer to have somebody there than to...
I think, maybe it's just my perspective as like being a YouTuber. Like when you're going around and it's like a guided one, you're sort of trying to pick your moments and when to film and stuff like that, because you're obviously with a load of people. So sometimes I'm either like first into an area. If they like, right, we're about to go pitch side, I'll like get to the front of the queue and like film myself going, so I get like an unobstructed view. But say we're going to the dressing rooms, I might hang back and let everyone else like go out and then just do a quick piece to camera whilst I'm in there. But I think self-guided for me personally, as just like vlogging and that, it's just a bit easier when it's self-guided and you're sort of at your own pace.
So what is an average day in the life of Sam North? Because me starting doing this YouTube stuff, it's pretty hectic. Yeah,
it's actually really boring, probably. I think people like would look at it and think, oh wow, being a YouTuber must be great, but the amount of editing you have to do and like travelling, like we were chatting about this beforehand, I do all my own travelling to games, like driving, editing, filming, everything myself. So it's like I'll usually like rush to get to a game, say it's at Kelty or whatever. I'll film it, I'll rush back home, edit it, get it ready for the next day, and it's just, honestly, it's like just a constant blur of like thinking what's in the next couple of days of matches I can go to or tours I can do, where am I going to fit my editing in, and how can I get it all uploaded and fit the odd dragon soup in here and there. But it's tough.
One of the things that I really caught on in the channel when I started watching it is you keep all the videos really educational as well as entertaining. So is there anything that you've learned whilst doing the research, that a fact that you just found absolutely astounding? Like, wow, I would never have known that if I'd never done this video.
Yeah, probably loads actually. There's tons of clubs that I've looked into that, like, before I moved to Scotland and started YouTube, I would never have known that Dumbarton were the first champions of Scotland. The first ever Football League season in Scotland, Dumbarton shared it with Rangers. The same amount of points. They had a playoff to decide the winner. They drew, so they shared the title. Then the second season, Dumbarton won it outright, and it's like they've never won it again. And in England, Preston won the first 2 league titles. Same 2 years, first 2, Preston won them. They've never won it again. So Dumbarton and Preston have this amazing link where if you would have spoke to someone in the 1800s, they'd have been like, oh, Dumbarton and Preston, they're 2 of the best teams in the UK. They're going to, in 100 years' time, they'll have, you know what I mean? But they've not barely won anything between them since then. So stuff like that, I love the old historic stuff. And Third Lanark, Cafkin Park, the abandoned stadium, and all that stuff.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Incredible, yeah.
It's still there.
We're so lucky in Scotland, especially like during COVID and that. When I was trying to make videos, you couldn't go in anywhere, but I could go outside stadiums. This country is incredible. It's not very big, like land area wise, but there's just so many football clubs everywhere, so many stories, like your Third Lanarks, like Dumbarton winning the league titles and all that. So
the old pitch at Hampden that's now a train line,
of course, the like first Hampden, exactly, all stuff like that. It's very lucky in Scotland to have all that.
One that jumped out to me, I think, was that Motherwell practically invented European football by going to Barcelona and playing Real Madrid.
They won the Copa del Rey, is that right?
Yeah. We'd unbeaten against Barcelona and Real Madrid. So
see, that's another incredible like fact, isn't it, about Scottish football?
It was John Sailor Hunter's teams, I think, that went to South America, did tours there, played like Barcelona and Real Madrid. So
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, when you look back in the history of football? Yeah.
Day, but I doubt it.
Not anytime soon.
So obviously you lived in Australia for 3 years. That must have been good, eh?
Oh, I loved it, mate. Yeah, especially when, like, you know, outside today it's like 6 degrees and it has been for months on end. But yeah, it was incredible. Like I was out there for like the winter at first, but then it took like quite a while for the summer to kick back in when I was actually out there. And it's like that first like long summer I had. You know how winters here drag? Yeah. It's like the opposite out there. The summer is like 9 months long, and it's just like even their winter days are like our summer days. In some cases. It is incredible. Yeah.
Did you have any encounters with like snakes or spiders or?
Yep, spiders. Yeah, I did like fruit picking and all that. Like when I was out there, you got to do like a certain amount of days of fruit picking to get your second visa. Basically, it's a bit of a complicated system, but yeah, we saw like these spiders, and like the farmers tell you, like if you see these spiders with a redback, they're called redbacks. Like you can't leave them. You got like you got these snippers that you're snipping like oranges off, the trees off, and like you got to snip them in half. Otherwise, like if you leave it in a tree, and then it bites someone else who goes back to get an orange, like sort of on you kind of thing. Yeah. So you got like snip in half. There's like loads of stuff like spiders but honestly, the worst part about living in Australia was like having to be at work when the football's on. I'd be getting up for work in the morning and like there'd be football on the telly.
My mate had to do that. I think he worked on a farm, and he says
you've got to do it.
He looked down at one point and there was like a rattlesnake right beside his foot. See, if I seen a snake, Sam, you would find the cure for cerebral palsy, mate. If I seen a snake, I would run.
Be up and
I don't know where. I don't know for how
something
long,
within you would get you up.
I would be off, mate. No, if I seen a snake, that would be the end.
Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't see too many snakes. It was more, spiders, I'd say. A few kangaroos, that was pretty good.
That'd be cool.
A few little baby kangaroos.
There's a few people that think they can fight kangaroos. I don't understand this.
They're massive. Nah, they'd smash you. Yeah.
No. So, see, living in Australia, I think one of your first match day vlogs was actually done in Australia.
Yeah, the first like 5 or 6 videos,
So they were done in Australia. So, were you aware of Ange Postecoglou before everyone in Scotland was?
Of course,
because obviously we heard his name and we were like, that's very hard to pronounce. That second name, that was like the first reaction, but you were obviously well aware of.
I'd heard of him. I think he was managing Melbourne Victory when I was out there, I'm sure. So yeah, I was aware of him. I knew that he'd like managed the Aussie team as well, and was out in Japan as well when I was sort of kind of getting to leave. So yeah, he was a name. Like again, like the football that I like to watch, the Premier League, etc. Like that was all on at then the Champions League. That was all on at rubbish times for me. So unless it was a massive game, I'd stay up for it. But if not, I'd have to leave it. So like the games that I was watching at the weekend were like say when I started YouTube, it was Central Coast Mariners, Sydney FC, Melbourne Victory, and that. But I lived in Australia years before I started YouTube, and I was going to games anyway. Just a fan of the game. I like to go and see him. Perth Glory, all them kind of teams, and it was exciting when like players from England and like Ross McCormack was at Melbourne City.
I think that's where they put on all his weight because he came to Motherwell shortly after, and I think he was about 4 stone too heavy to be honest with you.
Just enjoying his time out in Australia here.
But no, I'm really impressed with what Ange is doing at Celtic. I don't think I've ever seen a team be able to press with that intensity.
It was a bit of a masterstroke. He wasn't their first choice, obviously, but how well has it worked out? He's come from like the biggest criticism was that he hadn't really managed in Europe, and like would he be able to step up? And he's managed in Asia and stuff like that. But that's actually his biggest strength because he's coming from a league which isn't massive on the world stage, but he knows all these great players in Japan, and he's obviously signed a load of them, Hatate and Kyogo.
And then there's the carrot that he can sell to these players that I'll get you exposure in Europe, and then obviously Celtic know where they are in the food chain. Well, they can sell these guys on for profit.
Look at how much they bought these players for. How much could they sell Kyogo for now? 20 mil minimum?
Exactly.
At least. So, what are they buying for? 2-3 million?
Exactly. So when that was announced, did you know it was going to work straight away? Were you pretty confident in your mind that it would work as well?
I didn't know if it would work as well as it had. Like, obviously people were saying it was going to take time and a rebuild and stuff. I definitely didn't think it'd be this quick. But in football, nothing's a guarantee, is it? As we've seen, like they lost the league by 25 points last season, and they won it the season before, for the last 8-9 years or whatever. I know it was COVID. And then this season they're, back to the top again after being 25 points behind last season. So there's nothing's ever a guarantee, but I'm certainly surprised at how well it's gone for Ange.
I think one of the reasons your channels did so well is because you give quite a balanced view of Scottish football, and you give
I do try
respect to the clubs that are here, no matter how big or small they are. And I think that's the misconception between Scottish and English people. People often say, Scots hate the English. It's not. It's more a case of we hate the disrespect that we get off certain sections of the media down south.
Of course.
Do you think there's a naivety towards how good the game is up here down south?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think I was naive to a lot of it. Like, I came up here wanting to cover Scottish football, of course, but I didn't know enough about it as much as I do now of having covered it for a couple of years. And I was obviously knew about Celtic, Rangers and the big clubs, but I didn't realise how well supported Auchinleck Talbot are, for example, a 6th tier team who can easily sell out their stadium, 3,500-4,000 people or whatever. It's incredible. Like, the support up here is mad. And even, teams like, I think you get a better day out at a Scottish game than you do at an English game on the whole. That's not to say, like, I think you get a better night at Anfield on a European night than you would at, I don't know, Falkirk on a 3 o'clocker on a Saturday. But on the whole, I think Scottish is great.
I think it's about the expectations you set for the experience. Obviously, if you're going to Anfield, you'd expect it to be blown away. But if you're going to Falkirk, you could be surprised. Do you know what I mean? There's
I think there's an element of surprise, and people are so passionate about their teams up here.
Yeah.
I think, people are hard up here. It's cold, it's wintry more than it is obviously down south. And I think, that lends itself into it all. And especially here in Glasgow. Glasgow's a very arty city. And, you've got Edinburgh versus Glasgow. There's a bit of a different culture, I feel like, between those two, and you can see that in the football with how fiercely the teams are supported in and around Glasgow.
You can also see it in everything, like the way the city's designed.
Yeah,
they feel like two completely different cities.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but no, I think just down south it's people like Jamie O'Hara who came out and said that Fulham would win the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break, mate. Do you know what I mean? But
I think you with the money that they've had at the Premier League, I think he was saying that, I think he was trying to, I think a lot of the stuff around the O'Haras and the TalkSpots, I think they probably do a lot of that for views.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I think it's very easy to say he's a dick, he's this, he's that. He's probably a really nice guy, right?
Yeah.
But there's just that naivety where he's not been exposed to Scottish football.
I think if you look at the money Fulham have spent compared to what Celtic and Rangers have spent,
they had that money down there.
If
the fan base that
if it was the British Premier League and not the English Premier League, then I'm sure that Celtic and Rangers would be way above what Fulham are currently.
Yeah, and this ties in quite nice. You see a result like Rangers against Dortmund during the week. What a result that was! And then you go to Dundee United, and the struggle to beat Dundee United, they draw 1 each. That is Scottish football in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets any more cinch, is it?
Yeah, it's very cinch.
Saying.
I know. Yeah, that's become a thing. Yeah,
that.
Yeah. You can go to Dortmund, score 4, and then go to Tannadice and not score. Score 1 rather. That's like, how is that possible? But I think context is always important in football, isn't it? It's like for that Dortmund game, they'd come off a match against Annan at the weekend to go to Dortmund, so I think they must have been fresher. Then you go out to Dortmund, you probably expect all that energy to win 4-2 against Dortmund, and then you come back to Tannadice. It's a bit of a crash down to earth, maybe you could say, but
I think there's a hangover from
always,
hangover that they talk about. Do you think that they can see the job through? Do you think that they'll be able to beat Dortmund tonight as a Sunday league?
I'd like to think. I'd love it if they did. I'm going to be there, so for the sake of my own video, I hope so. I think that'd be incredible, but yeah, you never know. Again, there's no guarantees in football, is there? Like we were saying with Ange, like you just never know who's going to turn up on the day. Like that game in Dortmund, Haaland wasn't playing, but he might be back for this game, and he's obviously an absolute star of that team, isn't he?
Looking forward to seeing Haaland in the flesh.
Haaland at Ibrox, exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think the game's going to go. Dortmund will definitely score. There's no way that Rangers keep a clean sheet in my eyes, but I do think with Dortmund's defence, they'll get chances.
If Dortmund score first, especially if they score early, that's going to be a nervous atmosphere around Ibrox.
Because it could quieten the crowd.
There's no away goals now.
Aye.
That is ridiculous. I don't know why UEFA got rid of away goals.
It's just so Rangers going to get through against Dortmund.
Yeah, probably.
To be honest with you, but
yeah.
No, so I'd say Scottish football is at its highest point that it's been over the last 20, 30 years. Would you agree with that?
I think the obviously the whole Rangers going out of the leagues or whatever and having to start at the bottom of League 2 is a bit of a contentious issue, and whether you agree or not of like them being put down all those divisions, whether you think that should have happened or shouldn't, the mere fact of it is that it's, I think, ruined Scottish football over the past 10 years, but it's great to see it kind of getting back to where it was. You can look at it in Europe, like I don't think I did a video about this ages ago. The facts escape me slightly, but I don't think there's been a season where a team in Scotland's progressed past a certain stage of the Champions League since Rangers got knocked out of it, like got knocked out of the leagues and stuff. So I think, it made Celtic less competitive domestically and thus less competitive in the Europe as well. And also, you're a Motherwell fan, right? Didn't they come second one of the years?
I think there was
a few years.
Twice we came,
exactly.
We came third and then we came second. We got into the Champions League because...
But you probably didn't get far in the qualifiers. So it's like you need these biggest teams to compete. I would love to see a stage where, Celtic and Rangers are consistently in the group stage of the Champions League. You get a Motherwell and a Hearts in the Europa League group stage, and maybe a Hibs in the Conference League. Something like that would be brilliant to see.
To me, I don't think as a Motherwell fan, if you offered me qualification for the Europa League or qualification for the Conference League, I would take the Conference League.
You think you'd go further in it?
Because there's more of a chance of us getting to the group stage, and that's 3 away trips to me. You go and watch Motherwell.
Of course.
I think Celtic and Rangers now are Europa League side.
Yeah, I think they are, and I think that comes from
And it's
what
not
happened in
their
the past
fault.
10, 15 years.
It's financially, they cannot compete. The Champions League is purely set up to benefit a certain amount of clubs with a certain amount of income. And you'll get a sheriff that'll do it well every so often, and one will slip through the nest, but the majority of the time it's just going to be these certain clubs, and I think that's why they wanted to go down the Super League route, which would have been an absolute disaster for the whole of football, but no, thankfully.
But I do think on the whole, though, Scottish football's in a great space. Just going back to your other question, but like I would like to see Celtic and Rangers, like I say, back in the highest competition in Europe, and then other clubs to be sort of not far off that. But I do think, in terms of the supporters and the matchday experience, I think it's great. But I think Scottish football could do better in marketing itself. I'm not saying this to be big-headed in the slightest, but people always say on my videos that I do a better job of promoting Scottish football than the authorities in this country. And I don't think there's barely any games on TV. Like, you can't sit down and watch it. There's not one place there should just be an SPFL app where you can spend 15 quid a month, a bit like Netflix, and you just get every single game from the bottom of League 2 to the top of the Prem. And they'd make so much more money from it. You could put that into the refs. The refs are part-time. I saw an interview with Bobby Madden on Open Goal. I've only just got around to watching it. I think it's a couple of years old, where Cy Ferry's driving about with Bobby Madden. He's like, I've got to work a job and then go and ref, and he can't. Yeah, he's a great referee, I think, Bobby Madden. Yeah. I think the refs get so much stick in this country. There's no VAR. There's no. They're all part-time refs. So how can you balance a job and then go and referee an Old Firm game? It's like you got to prepare for that all week, and it's like. I think Scottish football, the authorities, the powers that be, the clubs themselves could do a better job of promoting the game.
I think, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot here in terms of any future potential opportunities, but I think we need to get rid of Sky. I really do, because they're so focused on the Premier League and the Championship. I loved BT's coverage of our game. I thought BT did a really good job of it. And you look at some of the games on Sky, they always I think like 79% of them have involved either Celtic or Rangers.
Of course, they do the numbers though, don't they?
And that's what they're looking for as a TV station, and I get it, I understand it. I just don't think that enough production goes into it at all.
There's just not enough live. I think there was, I can't remember when it was maybe a couple of months ago, there was a great list of fixtures all on the one day. It's like midweek. None of them were on TV. None of them. There was like a tweet of all these great games that are on. You couldn't watch any of them. It's like Scottish football's really doing itself a disservice when it does that, because people want to watch it.
It's no wonder people down south think that we're rubbish, because the good games aren't even put on TV. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But what I want to ask you is, we've got a big playoff coming up against Ukraine, and then potentially Wales or Austria. Will Scotland qualify for the World Cup in your opinion?
I think they will. But it would just be Scotland's luck, wouldn't it, that it's in a country where you can't drink.
Oh, we'll become the Qatar army, don't we?
The Qatar army, I like that. It's the first time I've heard that. Nice.
So we'll try and coin that phrase and get that.
I'm sure that if Scotland do go to Qatar, they qualify, then I'm sure the fans will take it over and be incredible, and I would love to see it. When was the last one?
1998 was the last World Cup we were at.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a while.
I can't even remember it, mate. There you go. I can't even remember Scotland at a World Cup.
I was 4, so I don't either, but it was great to see them in the Euros, but... Yeah. I feel like for me, even the Euros was bittersweet. Not because of England in the final. I know everyone in Scotland was buzzing about that, but just the whole COVID thing. You couldn't. The fan parts.
It was a diluted tournament.
It was awful. It was they chose to do the Euros in the pandemic year in all those different countries. I know it was planned to be in the different countries because it was the 60th year of it anyway, but they should have just had it in the UK, and we could have had full stadiums for it. It could have all been in one country. We've got the infrastructure for it. We've got the hotels, we've got the trains, we've got the coach. You know what I mean? We've got everything set up to be a tournament country.
At the time, everything in
the final and the semis were going to be here anyway,
so
and it's
just have it here.
Exactly. They still went ahead of it being in all those countries during COVID. It was just so stupid, in my opinion.
Are you going to the Ukraine game?
I'm not right now, but if anyone from the SFA is watching, get me a media pass, that'd be great. Cheers. There's a general sale on Monday, I think, but I don't know if I'll get it.
It's going to be some atmosphere.
Historic, yeah.
I think, for me, going back, Hampden had kind of died a death a wee bit, but the national team with the performances have reinvigorated it.
Yeah, of course.
And it feels like the old Hampden again. If you give this crowd a performance, the crowd will respond. Do you know what I mean?
I think it was Israel, was it, recently? Or Denmark? What was the McTominay one?
It was Israel. See, you watched my vlog of that. I was in tears when that goal went in. I think it was me, Ali Mccoy, was in tears.
Yeah, Ali McCoy's commentary, and like, I think I was away down in England at that point, but I was just watching the game, and like, just the atmosphere was just incredible. And if I see big games, I get like fear of missing out. I just get FOMO of them. I'm like, I had FOMO of that game there. It's like incredible, but
we've not been beat since then, and I think that was a turning point. I think that was a real turning point.
Steve Clarke deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done.
It boggles my mind when we have one bad result and I go on to fan pages and I see people saying that Steve
Football
Clarke's
fans
not
are just
the man.
fickle,
It's
aren't they? Like, you can't win with football fans.
So frustrating. I mean, like, when have you ever been in this position? And then you've got the potential of Wales v Scotland. That has to be at the Millennium Stadium. See, if they do not have that at the Millennium Stadium, it's such a missed opportunity.
That'd be incredible, yeah.
It'd be
Let's hope you both get through.
Because I said to you off air, like, my plan is to go straight from that game straight down to Wales.
Straight down to Wales for you, dragon soups on the coach down on the train.
But no, you mentioned the Euros there. How is it for you living in Scotland as an Englishman and seeing?
It was good actually, because I actually went to a game.
The nation, it really did.
I went to the Ukraine-Sweden game at Hampden.
Good game that
was, I think that was the round before the quarters. So it was good as an opportunity to go to that. That was brilliant. But like I say, like, it was just a bit frustrating for me because I was trying to make content around it. You couldn't really get tickets for the big games, obviously. And then, like, even for the final, like, you couldn't book anywhere. There was no fan parks. COVID was a bit strict at that point and stuff. But on the whole, it was great. It was great to see, Scotland there, and like you say, the nation was just buzzing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It all came sort of crashing to an end when David Marshall sort of ran out of his goal in the first game, and Schick scored, I think, did he?
Oh, don't even.
It was Marshall and goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and he like fell into the net and all that.
Villain, but no.
It's like, when that happened, it was all like, right, reality's kicked back in again. Because I think at that point, you had England and Croatia. I feel like wasn't there like one or two sort of, I know it's easy to look back in retrospect, but couldn't Steve Clarke have gone a bit more attacking in that game or played one or two better?
The Czech Republic game, I think we definitely could have.
I think that was a missed opportunity. Should have gone for that one. Yeah.
So obviously, England had a good tournament. I don't like talking too much about it, but I think it's important that we touch on it.
Yeah, of course.
But no, real missed opportunity for you guys?
Yes and no. I think it was very historic, of course, for the country in that. So I think everyone's got that sort of memory of the day and of the tournament, at least. It really brought everyone together. But a little bit bittersweet, I guess, the way it happened in the end, and with all the controversy around Saka, Rashford and Sancho with the penalties. And I think tactically in the game we weren't very good. We didn't take the game to Italy at all. Yeah. From a footballing perspective, we could have been better. And Gareth Southgate brought those players on at the end. Their first kick of the ball was to take a penalty. What a stupid decision. Everyone could know. But in these high-pressure situations, I feel like you make bad choices sometimes.
I think particularly when you guys get the early goal, you've got them then. You've got to just
yes and no. I sort of felt like when we scored that early.
There was an apprehension the minute you scored, like, okay, we're leading.
It was almost a little bit too early, wasn't it?
There was a fear.
I think we got to half-time, it was still 1-0, I'm sure.
No, it was 1-0 half-time, and I was very, very nervous because I thought that I was never going to hear the end of another England.
Like I say, it was a frustrating time through COVID, I think. Like, the stadium was full, yet you couldn't book anywhere, because everywhere was booked. You had to book a table somewhere. So me and my mate, we were in central London. I made a vlog of the day, just of like how it was and stuff. And we had to, like, because of COVID, there was no fan parks or anything like that. There was one fan park, but it was full, obviously. But then we just had to go from pub to pub to pub. We probably went into 20 pubs within the space of like an hour, just asking if they had any tables. And this was like 6 hours before kickoff. And it was a Wimbledon final that day as well. So we were in the pub at like 12 or something. So finally they said, we've got a table that you can have. So we were in there from 6-7 hours before kickoff watching Wimbledon, and it was just frustrating from that perspective and trying to find something to do for the game. But from a footballing standpoint, it was brilliant to get to the final. Of course it was. But obviously everyone in Scotland had the little Italian flag in their Twitter bios, didn't they, for months on end afterwards, which I get it.
Yeah.
But for me,
it's the banter side, isn't it? And I think it goes back to that.
This is where Scotland's different to England, though. Like you were about to say, I think with O'Hara and the banter between the media in the two countries, Scotland wanted England to lose. Whereas for me, and I think for a lot of English people, if Scotland were playing in the final, we'd want them to win.
No, do you know what it is, right? And I can tell you exactly why we never want you to win anything. It's because we'll never hear the end of it. It's like, imagine like Celtic and Rangers, right? Imagine like Rangers won a European title, or Celtic won a European title.
Or they won 10 in a row.
Or they won 10 in a row. you'd hear about it forever.
I know, yeah.
So it's that rivalry.
Of course, I do understand that, and it's just the same for us. If Scotland won something, we'd hear about it forever. But I'd still kind of like to see it.
So you don't need to worry about that. I don't think.
You said that now. Qatar 2022, it's coming.
Well, you look at it. You look at countries like Belgium and Denmark who have similar populations to ours.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a good question. What more do you think Scotland could do to get to that level?
Yeah, like why is the Dutch league and the Dutch national team seen as so much better than the Scottish? I just don't understand. Like, they've got Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord. You've got Celtic and Rangers. They're up there in terms of them clubs. Oh, Ajax have won a lot more European Cups, so I'd imagine they're probably a bit bigger and more successful in certain ways, you could say. But Celtic and Rangers are surely bigger clubs than PSV, Feyenoord and all the rest of the Dutch teams. But for some reason, they can produce a Van Dijk and a Depay and all great players down the years.
Do you know where I think we go wrong? And this is through looking at my dad being in the coaching side of the game for ever since I was born. He was at Motherwell, Celtic, Pollock. I think we're far too competitive from a young age. I don't think you need to teach people to be competitive. It's naturally ingrained in them to want to win. Whereas I think a lot of coaches focus on that from a very young age, when it should be about people's ability and developing their ability. And there's a lot of micromanagement that goes on. I mean, the player gets the ball, do this, do that, pass it here, pass it there. Let people go and express themselves and make their mistakes when they're young.
I also don't think that in Scotland you play the winter, you know what I mean? Like, having kids out in the rain and in the sleet and all that, like, that's going to put a lot of little kids off who are, like, 8 years old and they're skinny and they got to stand out in the field and might only get 6 touches of the ball of an 11, like if they're playing 11 aside, let's say 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever.
I think the parents have an important role to play as well. I think it's very important to allow your child to enjoy the football.
Of course, yeah.
Rather than living what you wanted to do through your child. No, there's some parents that are like that their child must make it in the game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But again, I think it also goes back to what we were saying earlier about Scottish football doesn't do a great job in marketing itself. I feel like for some reason the Dutch league and total football and maybe the sponsorships and the exposure of the league is better than what it is here.
You look at all these leagues as well, like the Dutch, they have an identity. What is Scotland's identity? Because
Exactly.
I can't really answer that question.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
That's a good point. It comes down to
our identity. What is our style of play?
Because it's not like Scotland's a country where, you know, it's got the same size population, but maybe they're more into it in Holland, into football. That's not the case. People in Scotland, there's the highest percentage of the population go and watch football in Scotland. So it's like, how is it, you know, it's so big, it's so important to people, yet it just doesn't translate for some reason.
Yeah, we've got a World Cup coming up. Qatar.
Yeah.
The one that should have been in England. Everybody knows it should have been in England.
It's a shame, yeah.
Is it a bit bittersweet about that then? Because I think it should have been here. It should have been in Britain.
I think it's about time that Britain had a tournament, and there's been talks about 2030 Euros, would that be?
Have you heard about the expansion of Hampden?
I've heard rumours about it.
So they're going to bring the stands forward.
That's
you
right.
know how you get that running track?
I've seen like
Hampden?
a mock-up of it on Twitter, I'm sure. Yeah,
that
looks
needs
good.
to happen. That's Hampden's one big flaw as a national stadium, is that you feel miles away from the pitch. But no,
I think so as well. But I think it's a good stadium. I think people really... Scottish fans love to slag off Hampden, but when I've been, it's been brilliant. There's a few tweaks, like you say, that could be made to make it even better. And I'm not saying it's the best stadium in the world at all, but if you look at the history, and actually, it's like you were at the Israel game, you said it was brilliant. Like, I've been and seen some great. I was at the League Cup final. It was amazing.
I know how good it could be.
Yeah, could be even better. You're
because I remember the Ireland game at Celtic Park. I remember the one where Sean Maloney scored an absolute peach. It was almost like Barcelona-esque the way that we were the goal. That ground was shaking. I know Leicester fans caused an earthquake, but I think we must have been pretty close that day.
Yeah.
My cousin was behind me, mate, right? He jumped over my head and landed in front of me.
So, I mean, Scottish fans are brilliant. But yeah, I don't think Hampden's quite as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be. I think it's a good stadium.
So going into the World Cup, is this England's biggest chance? Because obviously you had the golden generation with Beckham and Ferdinand. I think... as much as it pains me to say, he's a pretty close, minus Harry Maguire, to be.
Of course. I think if Joe Gomez was playing consistently for Liverpool, he'd be in that squad as well. But England, golden generation. It's tough to say. Like, there's been a lot of. You can't say it when you're playing, but ever since they've retired, Lampard, Neville, Carragher, Gerrard, all these people have come out and said there was too many cliques within the dressing room. The Chelsea boys would sit together, the Liverpool boys, the Man United boys, and they'd have such rivalries week in, week out in the Prem that they would not be friends. Whereas I think what what Leicester have taught us in the last 5 or 6 years is that you don't need amazing superstars and players to win anything. You need a good, set of lads who get along well, and if something's going wrong in the game, they can help each other and dig in, etc. Arbroath have shown us that they are the only part-time team in the Championship, yet they're top, and they've won League 2 and League 1 in the past few years.
23, that's all I've got.
It'd be incredible. I know everyone wants it.
Obviously, because I'm working with Kelly, I'd love for them to go up. But
yeah.
if Arbroath could go up through the playoffs, and we just get
and so Leicester as well, though, right, in the Prem. Leicester, the season before, had just narrowly escaped relegation, then went and won the Premier League, and that shows that if you've got a good manager, Ranieri, and you've got a good squad who will get along with one or two good players in there, that's better than having superstars and Neville and Scholes and Gerrard and all that. And it's we've got a team now at England that are maybe not as technically gifted, you could say, as that generation, but maybe we're holding that generation up on a pedestal and they weren't that as good as what people make out.
I think the big mistake with that generation was not playing the midfield three.
Of course, it was Sven stuck to 4-4-2.
You've got Scholes, Lampard and Gerrard. Why are you playing a 4-4-2 and trying to fit square pegs?
He wouldn't, Sven
Why?
just wouldn't change a 4-4-2. He had Heskey and Owen up front. And he loved
so
it.
this is a team, right? I'm going to try and run through it. David James in goals, right?
Yeah.
Gary Neville.
Yeah.
Then it would be Ferdinand Terry.
You'd even had Campbell that you could throw in there.
Or Campbell.
Yeah.
Ashley Cole, right? Midfield three of Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes. Oh my God. Beckham on the right.
Yeah.
Michael Owen up front on his own to run in behind people. And Joe Cole on the left. That's
And we had Rooney coming through at that point.
Rooney
You had a little
well,
interchangeable sort of thing,
so that's the team.
It was obvious. It's obvious to look,
It was there. He's never done it.
Again, in hindsight, you can say that, but I just don't think Sven was ever going to change from that 4-4-2. That was a very English thing at the time. 2 banks of 4 and be tough to break down, etc. And that was in the Prem. Everyone was playing that formation 4-4-2 for years, and then I think it was really Mourinho came in and maybe was playing 4-3-3. Had Kalou and Joe Cole and Damien Duff up front with Drogba as the main striker and stuff. I think Mourinho may have come in and played 4-3-3, and ever since then the game's evolved. Obviously, no one plays 4-4-2 anymore, really, do they? So, no. But yeah, like I say, bit of a wasted opportunity back then. But I still don't even think, even with a better formation, we might still not have won anything because none of them liked each other. Yeah. I think now they've stopped playing their pundits, they can all get along. But when you're competing every year for Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues and FA Cups, it's hard to be mates. But for some reason, this group that we've got now in England have all got along a bit better. I don't know why.
So on the channel, are you going to get to Qatar?
Who knows, mate? Who knows? When is that?
December.
How many months away is that now? 10 months?
10 months away. So it's going to be on you before. It's going to be on us before we know it.
Yeah. It's come around quick, hasn't it? It seems so futuristic when it got announced 10 years ago. Now it's here. Maybe, mate, I'd love to go. I need a sponsor. So, anyone out there?
Anybody out
there? Come on.
Yeah. Me too, please.
yeah, get us some tickets to go out there. Cheers.
But no, you can guarantee that if Scotland qualify, we will get Brazil. It's just set in stone.
Yeah, it always happens.
Always happens. But no, from the highs of Brazil to, you obviously go to grounds like Kelty, Auckland.
I'd say Kelty are up there with Brazil.
You've been okay. I should have said cow and beef. Blue Brazil.
Blue Brazil, yeah.
Anyway, no, I slipped up there. But did it surprise you, the quality even at that level? Because that's something that I found when I went to Pollock. My dad was at Pollock. I would watch some of the games and I'd be like, how have these guys not made it? There's some really, really good quality at this level. They
could have made it, but the league structure isn't big enough in Scotland, so I don't think there's much difference at all from a West of Scotland league team and a team in League One and even the Championship.
Look at Auckland.
Beat Hamilton in the cup. They beat Hamilton easily. Look at Clydebank. They beat a couple of They beat Clyde. Yeah. And then just narrowly lost against Annan. And then you got Banks OD, who I think beat East Fife. You got Darvel, who beat Brechin. Of course, Brechin are Highland League now, but for years, obviously, entire history have been Football League pretty much. So you got all these non-league teams that have beaten league teams in the cup, and that's no surprise for me because you've got a system here in Scotland where there's very little promotion and relegation. Only since 2013 has there been a pyramid system. So you've got teams that are playing in non-league football that could well be better than every single League 1 and League 2 team and maybe some Championship teams. You just don't know it because they've never had a chance to... The system hasn't had a chance to breathe since it's come in 2013. It's like 10 years now. Next year's 2023, and there's been, 3 promotions to the SPFL in that time. You cannot have a system where it was in about 2006-ish. East Stirlingshire finished bottom 6 years in a row. How can you have that? Like,
and then they never went anywhere. They just stayed there.
And it's like, how can you have that? Because that's going to stagnate everything. You got this team that's always going to finish bottom. What's to make Albion Rovers say, I'm going to improve my stadium, improve my squad,
exactly.
and you know you're...
Where's the carrot for clubs to progress if they don't know that they're going to go anywhere? They'll just stay in the lane kind of a thing.
And they need to open up promotion and relegation a bit more. I speak about this a lot in my vids, and they've got to... Like I say, there's some great teams. There's some Auckland Talbot, some Clydebanks, and even in the Lowland...
Pollock are huge.
Pollock are doing amazing, yeah.
Massive.
They've got a great support there in Glasgow. They've got a good area to pick players from. You got a team like Pollock who are currently in a division lower than 2 university teams. I'm not saying the university teams shouldn't be in the Lowland League, but you got a couple of uni teams in there. Yeah, you've got Auckland Talbot and Pollock and Linlithgow Rose out in the east and that. And they've got some amazing clubs who are below where they should be, but it's going to take, in the current system, years for it to sort itself out, if it ever does.
They've introduced the pyramid system, but I still think it needs reconstructed.
It's the world's...
I would have the top league 16 teams.
Yeah, I would have...
So you play... Obviously, you'd be one of the teams, so it'd be 15 and 15, you play them twice, and then it would still split it.
Yeah.
37 games a season.
Because how boring is it to play... I know they do it so it's 4 old firms, but how many Motherwell fans want to play Livingston 4 times a year?
Honestly, I think there was one season where we played like Rangers 3 times in 2 weeks or something, and it was like... I don't want to play the same teams all the time.
That's why I've done a FIFA career mode with a Scottish team, and it just gets boring because you just play the same teams.
You look at, if you reconstruct it, the teams that could come up like Dunfermline, Raith Rovers, Kilmarnock, Thistle, and then if you know that that's the one time that you're going to go to that away stadium that season, it will increase attendance. Yeah. If you make it in the summer as well, it will also increase attendance. I think there's 2 things that they need to look at. And then, as you say, make more relegation in League 2. Make it 2 teams that go down. Yeah. Maybe 2 or 3, or if you increase
one should automatically go down in the playoff for it.
The amount of clubs that we have in Scotland.
That's loads.
And it's like the pyramid is so tiny.
Yeah.
It's so rigid.
Yeah. It is. It's
Expand
crazy.
It.
Look at England's pyramid is incredible, and we have the non-league playoff final, conference playoff final at Wembley, and there'll be tens of thousands of people go to that game. We have the FA Vase and FA Trophy. Those finals get played on the same day at Wembley, and there'll be tens of thousands of people there. It's like Scotland could have something like that. There's the passion for non-league here, which is huge. But for some reason, the reason is that SPFL clubs would have to vote for it. I mean, who's going to want to vote for that?
I'm quite outspoken, and I'll probably get myself into trouble, but I need to say my opinion. I think that the football here needs to be run by football people. People that have played the game. Not people like Neil Doncaster and that, people who have actually went and played the game, know what it's like to be a player. I'm not saying he's not enthusiastic, but have supported Scottish football all their life and know how it should change for the better. Yeah. It's too...
Yeah, I'm not sure who the people are running it, but I do think there should be changes to it. Now, I don't think it's controversial to say there should be changes. I think people agree that clubs system should be allowed to breathe. You can't. People hated the Super League. Why? Because you couldn't get in and out of it. That is what Scottish football has been for for decades and decades till 2013. It's still very much like that. It's still very hard to get in.
And for a nation that founded the game,
it's mental.
It should not be the case. But what I think the smaller clubs are really good at doing, Sam, is connecting with the community. Yeah. How would you like to see bigger clubs strengthen that connection between their fan base?
I think it's just so easy at the smaller clubs to get involved and to get to know the players, the managers, the people that run the clubs. Obviously, you're never going to be able to get that fully at Rangers and Celtic and the bigger teams, but I just wish that there was more ways for fans to get involved and to meet players and to to be able to get to games ultimately. I don't know, I just think maybe having the games on telly, like we said, that'd be a good way to get more fans watching the games and getting more involved. But I think on the whole, people are fairly connected to their clubs in Scotland. In England, I feel like you're way more disconnected from the big clubs than you are in Scotland. I don't know how a Man City fan can be enthusiastic about having £800 million worth of talent on the bench or spending $100 million on Grealish for him to score 3 or 4 goals in a season. It's like,
why did they not sign a striker? Oh my god!
I know that there's that question, but it's just that it could have been anyone. sort of pick that point for. It's like, how can you have Ronaldo on $500,000 a week at United yet you've got Derby going out of existence, for example, like stuff like that? It's like Bury get.
Derby cannot die. That cannot be allowed to happen.
It's just so corrupt from the court. It's like there's so much money at the top end, and there's so many struggles at the bottom end. It's just it doesn't sit right with me. But I feel like in Scotland it hasn't been as corrupted by the big money, which is actually what I quite like about Scotland. At the same time, I'm saying it needs to market itself better and it needs more money and investment. I actually quite like that it's still sort of humble in its roots in a way.
There's an old-fashioned feel towards Scottish football. It still feels like it before all the money came in.
Yeah.
Because the gap between England and Scotland wasn't that big.
Yep.
Until Sky came in with all this money and completely just
looking
blew us
at
in the water.
The late 80s and early 90s, all the best English players came to play in Scotland because English teams had a European ban because of Heysel. The European Cup final in the mid-80s, and then they couldn't play European football for the English teams for 5-6 seasons it was. And so you had Gaza and players like that coming up to play up in Scotland. And
I'd have loved to have been old enough to remember that era.
Mm-hmm. It seemed incredible, didn't it? Looking back.
Motherwell nearly won the league one year. I think
Really?
we finished like 3 points behind Rangers, and there was so many games that we dropped silly points against. Like
I'm actually quite surprised. I'm quite surprised that like a Saudi prince hasn't taken over a Hearts, a Hibs, or an Aberdeen, or a Motherwell.
Nah,
it'd be so easy to win a league.
Rangers first.
I know, but I think it'd be so easy to take over a team with a billionaire backing you and win the Scottish Prem that wasn't Celtic or Rangers.
I seen something on
because they're not that. They're good compared to Scottish teams, but it wouldn't take that much to get as good as them if you had the money. It wouldn't.
We've got investors in India and like, stuff like that. And I seen something on Twitter the other day. This guy called Callum Abroad, who does just his channel where he travels abroad and stuff, and he met a Motherwell fan in Jordan.
Really? Of all the places.
And he thought he was at it until he started rhyming off players and talking about
Kevin Van
results.
Veen.
Mental, but no. My channel is about, obviously, how we can improve disabled facilities and the match day experience for disabled supporters.
Of course.
As an able-bodied fan, for yourself in the match day experience, what is one thing that you would like to see added to the match day experience?
Added to the match day experience? That's a good question. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I visit a lot of stadiums and that, and it's just, I'll tell you what, something that should be done for stadiums around the world is safe standing for atmosphere.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're starting to talk about it in England, and
you've got like parts of it at the Green Brigade at Celtic and stuff like that, but obviously it's something that I can't get. Of course, but no, I definitely agree because
for atmosphere though, makes it so much better.
I don't enjoy home games as much as I enjoy away games.
Why is that? Atmosphere, the away,
because
of course,
if you ever come to Far Part with me, the disabled section, I'm quite disconnected from the East Stand with the atmosphere. Or the John Hunter.
But you want to be in there, right?
I want to be in
with
there.
the Well boys, right?
Yeah. That's why I love away games, because when you go, you're actually in the stadium, you're in amongst it, and it's just much better for me.
Yeah, away fans, you're always that core set of fans, aren't you? That like goes home and away, and like you get the proper mental fans in there.
So, we discussed this. You mentioned it earlier, and I was going to go into it, but I thought leave it till later on in the interview. We talked about referees.
Yep.
And there's been some ridiculous decisions in the past couple of weeks that can't even be explained, in my opinion, by human error. Like Charles Dunn sending off for St Mirren. Ridiculous. Some of the tackles that have been going in and not being punished. Like, there was obviously Ryan Jack's one against Dundee United. Rangers should have had a couple of penalties as well, just for balance. Don't worry, I didn't notice it. And then there was a Johnny Hayes tackle at the Motherwell game that could have been punished.
Yep.
These referees need help, don't they? We need VAR. VAR in Scotland, yes or no?
We spoke about this. We touched on it earlier. I think there's a lot to unpack with the referee conversation. The first thing they should do before VAR is give the refs a proper full-time wage and let them be refs. Again, heard the Bobby Madden interview, and he was saying how he's got a really hectic life. So he's got to rush from work to go and referee or whatever. And then that just obviously diminishes his ability to referee well in the game. I think that must be the same for all the refs. But VAR in Scotland, I think, probably does need to happen, but it needs to happen well. Again, I don't think Scottish fans would take to waiting 4 or 5 minutes for a decision. Can you imagine what Scottish fans are like now?
I mean, I think because we've seen it in operation, though, and we know how it works down south when it comes in,
Yeah.
We'll know what to expect. And my take on it is, as long as it's being used correctly,
Yeah.
and as long as they're getting the decisions right,
Yeah.
then use it. My gripe is when armpits are offside. When
I think we're beyond.
offside.
Yeah, I think we're beyond that now.
I think the offside needs to be visible to the human eye.
Yeah,
before it can be given.
Yep, I think that's a good point. Yeah, no, I think if Scotland is going to implement VAR, then it needs to look at the countries that do it well before anything. But again, it's still going to be the same refs that are currently making, like you said, contentious decisions on a weekly basis anyway, in a VAR room somewhere else. So it's like they need to still be given the right tools to do the job correctly. Like, they still need pay and they still need to be proper professional referees. And how can you have players that are on 50 grand a week, yet you've got a ref who's completely part-time? I don't understand how a league can operate like that. Like, surely they can find Specsavers sponsor the refs, right?
It's quite ironic.
It is ironic in a way. It's quite funny. I like it, but it could be anybody who sponsors it. My point is, like, how are the authorities not getting a sponsor to pay these refs a wage so they can have properly good referees? I'm not saying the referees in Scotland aren't good. I'm saying that, like I mentioned earlier, they have other commitments outside of football, and these footballers train all day and all week to get the best results on the pitch. Why are the referees not given the same opportunities? I feel sorry for them, because, like you say, like, people absolutely lambast them on social media. They'll take the pit. They'll send them messages and all that, like direct messages that you can send to people nowadays, and it's not their fault. They're just blokes like me and you making a split-second decision in a high-pressure situation. They're gonna get something wrong. It is natural that they're gonna. It's just a real shame that they don't have the help that they deserve, and I feel like they're scapegoated a lot of the time, and it shouldn't be them. It should be, again, the authorities who haven't given them the right tools for the job.
I think I'm always I think I'm lenient with them, although anybody that's seen me at a game might disagree.
If they don't give Motherwell a pen, you're like,
I am in the rear. The linesman at the disabled trailer gets it all the time off me. But no, I think our own manager, Graham Alexander, has done a good job at making sure the referees know he's there.
Yeah. You can
by
always
about the
influence
40 touchline bans that he's had since he's been here. But
yellow cards.
I'm alright as long as that when you watch it back, see if the referee's got a clear view of it, then I get it. But the view can be obstructed. All these things need to be taken into account.
Yeah.
Do you know what
I think the game's changed the world over, hasn't it, since VAR's come in, and Scotland's one of the last probably few remaining major leagues in Europe that doesn't have VAR. You look at all the leagues around the world, I'm sure they have VAR or something very similar, and Scotland doesn't have it. They've waited a long time. I think it's probably time for it, but like I say, they've got to do it right, because you know what Scottish crowds can be like, and if they're sitting around waiting for 3-4 minutes for a decision to get made, and they'll be getting on top of the match day referees and officials. And
so, to conclude, yes or no, would you bring it in?
Yes, just
yes. That's like a 51.
50 plus 1 vote.
Decision there.
Only just.
But no, your channel's going really well at the minute. As I say, you're close to 100,000 subscribers.
Getting there.
Where do you see your channel evolving in the next few years? What do you see happening?
I would like to, well, as you mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of videos from abroad. Only because of COVID, I've been obviously confined to the UK for the last couple of years. So now the channel is growing, and I get more opportunities, hopefully earn a bit more money from the channel. I can take it to different countries again. That's always been the dream for me. The channel name is Footy Adventures. It's
so
never been
more adventures.
It's never just been like one country specific in my mind. So as much as I've loved covering Scottish football, and I will still continue to do that forever, don't get me wrong, I would love to do, month-long trips to South America, to Asia, to the weird places that people don't think about football in, if you know what I mean. Not the people there, I mean like the people maybe who already watch my channel.
They haven't been exposed to yet.
Yes, imagine going to make a month's worth of football videos in India or something like that. It's just mad stuff like that I want to do.
So, going on to the quickfire bit just before we conclude the interview now,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
You can take one football player on a footy adventure with you for the vlog. Who you taking?
Oh, Jesus. What a question that is. I could take one player anywhere from around the world. Could he be like dead or alive or whatever?
Needs to be alive. Because
current player?
Yeah, because I've got as long as he's alive, he doesn't need to be playing currently.
Can be retired.
He can be retired.
I suppose Gaza's got to be up there, hasn't he?
Gaza, right? Okay.
So Ali McCoy. I know they're quite
Oh,
Rangers.
Ali McCoy should be good.
It's heavy.
You
But
know you'd have a laugh if Ali McCoy went with you, definitely.
yeah, I feel like he's got some really good stories. And again, like that Israel game that you're at, like his reactions to goals and that, I feel like would just be so good. But obviously Gerrard's a hero of mine as a Liverpool fan growing up. People say I cover Rangers too much. I've just reeled off 3 Rangers geezers out. I didn't mean to. I just feel like their personalities are...
I think you're pretty balanced. You always get Celtic fans saying that you cover Rangers too much and Rangers fans saying that you cover Celtic too much.
But then they forget that I've been to Wick and Stranraer and Motherwell and everywhere else in between.
No, you definitely get a good night out with Alan McCoy, because I don't know if you've heard the story of a Rangers team night out. And they're all sitting around the table and they're going, "Where's Ali? He had a bird in the toilet."
Did he?
Aye. So you definitely get a good night out with Alan McCoy stick at them.
So yeah, it would have to be like somebody like that who's got a good bit of banter about him, good bit of patter, and it'd have to be someone like Coisty, I guess.
You're definitely doing yourself no favours with the Rangers thing, calling him Coisty. But anyway, no. But no, I think I know what you're going to answer here. I've got one in my mind that I think you're going to answer. What is your favourite retro kit?
Favourite retro kit? God, there's a few out there. I like the old Soviet Union kit.
Wow. Right, we're going to need to try and find a picture of that. See if you
It's
can send me
incredible.
that post-interview and we'll get that pop up on screen so that people know
The old
exact kit that you're talking
the old communist symbol of the hammer and sickle on
Yeah.
their kit, and it's got like USSR but in their language on it. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's unbelievable. Something like that.
Apparently they're making a comeback as well, so you never know. You may
Yeah, in the news right now. Yeah. Jesus, yeah, mentioning the Russians right now.
I think I would need to go for one of the old Dortmund ones.
Yeah, the old Dortmunds are amazing, aren't they?
Can't remember the name of the sponsor, but it was like a big C
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah, Continental maybe,
Continental
something like that. Yeah.
Aye, no.
Them Dortmund kits are incredible. The old Fiorentina ones are pretty cool.
By
Nintendo
the
on
way,
them.
have you seen how much they go for online?
Oh, mate, they're hundreds, aren't they, some of them?
Mental.
Some of them are pretty
Old
good.
Chelsea Auto Glass one.
Or just like Liverpool kits of growing up for me.
I thought you were going to say the Liverpool Candy one.
Yeah,
That's the
incredible.
one that I thought you were going to
Yeah.
mention, because I know that they're really difficult to get your hands on them.
See, as much as I am a Liverpool fan, I am just a huge fan of the game in general as well. Yeah. So for me, the weirder and wonderful clubs and kits, kind of the better in a way. Like the Soviet Union kit, or the old Yugoslavia. They're not a country anymore. It's like Croatia, Bosnia, all them countries that split. Yeah. The old Yugoslavia kits of the country, like the countries that are no longer sort of around, like them kits are just for me.
So, what about the old goalie kits? Remember the old goalie numbers?
With the old padding on the on the arms and that.
I always think of David Seaman.
Seaman,
96.
Yeah. Or the old garish, like all colours and that. Yeah.
Next question.
Yep.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Oh wow! He
Straight
didn't even
off the
let me finish the sentence.
Just for me, like
why?
I've
got a counter argument to this, but why?
He just seems so naturally gifted, and I've seen him play in the new camp for Barca and seen him score. I've also seen Ronaldo score for Real Madrid. I just feel like, as a player, like he's just so... I feel like Ronaldo's good to watch, but I feel like Messi... I'd pay money to go and watch Messi over paying money to go and watch Ronaldo. To watch him play.
I agree that Messi's better to watch, right? But in terms of what he's achieved in the game, I go Ronaldo.
I respect his career a lot, yeah.
Because he's done it at more clubs.
Yeah.
He won the Euros with Portugal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Messi kind of did similar to Copa America with Argentina, but just for me, the fact that how vital he was for Manchester United, Real Madrid, and particularly those two clubs, and how vital he's been for Portugal, I think that cements his place is just. But in terms of who I would like to go and watch, I agree, Messi is a better player to watch.
Like I didn't even let you finish. Yeah, it was Messi for me, like naturally gifted, like watch him play. And when I went to see him play, like, he doesn't play in one position. He'll just like roam around the pitch. He'll be picking the ball up at like defensive mid position and like playing passes, and then you'll see him out on the right wing, then the left wing, then up front, then back again. It's like, it's incredible just like watching him move and that. But yeah, for me, it'd be Messi. But yeah, looking at the careers and what they've won, I'd say, has Ronaldo won more Champions Leagues? I think he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Messi's won more Ballon d'Ors, I believe.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I do think that we need to sit down and just say, look, we're grateful to have both of them.
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. But yeah, it's always interesting to have that debate, I think. So
yeah.
I thought I'd bring
Everyone's
that up.
always one or the other, aren't they?
Yeah, but no, one player from the past or team that if you had the opportunity to go back and watch, you would. So So you could jump the time machine and go back and watch one team you want to watch.
Go and watch the team play.
You could watch a team or a player. It can be specific. You can give me an answer on both.
Probably Liverpool's teams of the 80s.
Right, okay.
I'd like to go and see. Obviously, Pele, Maradona, these iconic players. Cruyff.
Yeah.
I would quite like to see play. That Dutch team, the Total Football.
Yep.
All those guys, I think they'd be incredible. But I know I've said a few there, but yeah, iconic teams of the past, I guess, that have won big things and done great things. I'd have always liked to have seen Gaza play. That tenacious, like, attacking play, I like.
Yeah.
I like John McGinn for what he does. Like, that's that tenacious player.
He's a player that could get into any team in the English
Yeah.
Premier League, in my opinion.
Right, yeah.
I think
so.
he's that good.
People
always
keep
talk
linking McGinn.
about left backs, but I think John McGinn is every bit as good.
I think so,
for
yeah.
cinema.
I think he's brilliant. But yeah, we got off a little bit there. But I just like that tenacious kind of player, and I think Gaza would be a great one to watch.
Oh, guys, would be brilliant.
Pele, of course, yeah. Cruyff. Is there anyone else?
So give me one player. You've already given me the team Liverpool for the 80s. Pick one player out of the lot that you mentioned.
Pele.
Pele, there you go. Pele and the Liverpool team for the 80s. Great answers.
Got to be.
I'd probably... this is going to be such a boring answer to anybody watching. But for me, just I've got it it's on my bucket list. It would be the best day in my life, apart from my child being born or a wedding, if Motherwell managed to win something in the game. So I'd love to go back and watch that 1991 team.
The cup final.
The cup final.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back.
Is that Davy Cooper?
Aye, I would love to go back.
Is that the one player as well?
The one player that I'd want to go back and watch would maybe be Maradona. I think.
Maradona, yeah. I think for a lot of people it'd be Maradona or Pele. Maybe George Best. It's probably got to be up there. Actually, to be fair, the Jinky Johnston I'd like to see.
Aye, that Lisbon Lions team would be brilliant.
Lisbon Lions, yeah.
But no, from football to food, you can eat one food for the rest of your life. What you stick with?
Like a meal or just like one food?
You can have a meal. I'll give you a meal.
Probably have to be like pizza, I guess. Cheese, something with cheese on.
Aye.
If it was just one food, it'd be cheese, but like,
okay.
yeah, it'd have to be something.
Cheese as well.
I just love it. You
cheese
just put it on anything, don't you?
Finally, I know you like your fantasy football, right? I knew that for watching one of your previous interviews. So I want you to give me your fantasy five-a-side team.
Of all time?
Yeah, could be all time. Go for it.
Keeper. I feel like you'd want Casillas in goal.
Casillas in goal, right?
Yeah, I think I said this on a recent podcast. I think someone asked me about something to do with this, or keepers or something. It's like, for me growing up, it's Buffon and Casillas. Right. Was the two, like, in that era, who were just incredible. So for me, it'd be Casillas in goal.
For me.
Schmeichel, yeah.
So I'll come back and forth with my
team. Yeah,
of
course, yeah. Schmeichel, yeah, would be a good keeper to have. I think I'd go five-a-side, yeah?
Yeah, five-a-side.
One in goal, one in defence, two in midfield, one up front. I think then I'd go Maldini.
Oh.
Because I feel like he can play a bit as well. He can defend, but he can also...
This is all time, right?
Beckenbauer, yeah, of course.
I'm going Beckenbauer. Midfield too.
Beckenbauer. Gerrard and Ronaldinho. I know mine are kind of from my era, see, so I was like growing up watching these people.
I'm going two Frenchies. I'm going Zidane.
Let me try and guess.
Zidane. Go
Zidane, Platini maybe?
Vieira.
Oh, okay.
Zidane, Vieira. And then up front, I'll go the main man. Diego Maradona.
Yeah.
What you having?
R9 Ronaldo.
R9 Ronaldo.
Just so iconic. I just love those players from that era. Growing up as a kid, like Maldini, Ronaldinho, R9, Casillas, Gerrard. Like, I just love that era of football. Yeah. I feel like maybe it's because we're in this era now that we don't see the players as iconic. But I feel like you look at Pirlo and Gattuso people.
There's that novelty of growing up and what the players that you watch. There's that romanticism about it, and I think that either will always be better to us because it's when we were introduced to football.
And I bet if you ask people who grew up in the 80s, they'd say people from there, like Baresi, people like that, Platini.
Yeah. You know. So that concludes today's interview, Sam. Thank you very much for joining me. I doubt anybody watching this is not already subscribed to Sam, but if you do, please go and subscribe to Footy Adventures. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to A Different View as well. There will be more coming in the future. See you soon, guys. Thanks.